You might be wondering, wait, why does this count as a monster movie? Well, my dear viewer, if it has monster movie tropes, if it has a monster, and if it has a tinge of horror and build up to said monster, then it counts. With that said, let's get into how this movie came to be. Author Peter Benchley published a novel called Jaws in February of 1974, and it became the bestseller in 44 weeks. And it was so that two producers of Universal Studios, Richard D. Zenok and David Brown, who both read the book individually. The latter came across in a literature section of the lifestyle magazine Cosmopolitan, edited then by his wife, Helen Gurley Brown. In that section, he found a little card written by the magazine's book editor detailing the plot, ending with, "Might make a good movie. Make of that what you will." Both Zenok and Brown read the novel in one night, go figure, stating that it was one of the most exciting things that they had ever read. And it was right then that they decided to make a film adaptation. However, like anything with an idea, they did not know how they were going to achieve it. For starters, they purchased the film rights way before the book was published in 1973 for about $175,000, over $1.07 million in today's currency. The directing jobs went to several different directors. At first, the job was going to go to John Sturges, who did have a resume of movies, including the maritime adventure The Old Man and the Sea. Then the job went to director Dick Richards, who made his debut in The Culpeper Cattle Co., which came out in 1972. However, he was dropped after repeatedly referring to the shark as a whale. Go figure. Finally, it landed on a person who really needed the job, and his name is Steven Spielberg. Spielberg has been a director since 1969. Nice. At 26 years old, he already directed his first theatrical film, The Sugarland Express, a crime drama released in 1974. Towards the end of the meeting with Zenok and Brown, he noticed the novel and was captivated by it. However, before production even began, believe it or not, Spielberg wanted to back out of the project, not wanting to be labeled as a truck and shark director, and was opting to move to 20th Century Fox's Lucky Lady. But due to a contract with Universal, he was not allowed to do so. It was Brown who convinced him to stay, stating, "After Jaws, you can make all the films you want." The film adaptation of Jaws was given a budget of $3.5 million, $167 million in today. What time? The film adaptation of Jaws was given a budget of $3.5 million, $167 million today, and a shooting schedule of 55 days, and filming began in May of 1974. Almost immediately, there were problems. For starters, actor Richard Dreyfuss stated, "We started the film without a script, without a cast, and without a shark." Let me explain the cast part. Spielberg himself didn't want to hire big stars at the time, even though he himself complied with a request of Zenok and Brown. He stated that somewhat anonymous performers would help the audience believe this was happening to people like you and me, whereas stars bring a lot of memories along with them, and those memories can sometimes corrupt the story. Like when producers told Akira Takarada in 1954 that Godzilla was the star of his own debut film, Spielberg said that the superstar was going to be the shark itself. On the acting side, the jobs went to Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, the aforementioned Richard Dreyfuss, Lorraine Gray, Marie Hamilton, and author Peter Benchley himself as the interviewer. Now for problem number 2, a script. Spielberg wanted to stay with the novel's basic plot, yet discarded many of Benchley's subplots. He said that his favorite part was the last 120 pages of the book, and said that, "I'd like to do the picture if I could change the first 2 acts and base the first 2 acts on original screenplay material, and then be very true to the book for the last third." As one can imagine, there were 3 drafts written before they were turned over to the writers, despite there almost being a union against the project. The final version was done by Spielberg himself, declaring that, "I am written out on this, and that's the best I can do." Now comes the third and final problem, the shark itself. Oh Christ. So, film producers initially wanted to train an actual great white shark, but soon realized that it would be impossible, probably because they didn't want to see an actual dead carcass on set. Anyhow, they instead opted for 3 fully sized pneumatically powered prop sharks, which the crew called Bruce. And you know what? That is exactly what I'm going to call the shark throughout this entire review. Actually, during production, they ended up using a real great white, so go figure. During filming, there were problems with Bruce, mainly filming it underwater. Remember, this film will be the first time to take place on the ocean. As you can imagine, producers were having a fit when it was way over budget. Not to mention filming Bruce himself was difficult due to him malfunctioning almost frequently. The crew became disgruntled and named the film Flaws. It's kind of rude. It also didn't help that shooting at sea led to many delays. The cameras were getting soaked. The boat used for the film, the Orca, kept sinking when the three main actors were on board. Bruce getting caught in seaweed and floating like a balloon on the first test. Many unwanted extras were appearing on set, and many more. Spielberg himself attributed many problems to his perfectionism and inexperience, stating years later, "I could have shot the movie in a tank or even in a protected lake somewhere, but it would not have looked the same. And I was naive about the ocean, basically. I was pretty naive about Mother Nature, and the hubris of a filmmaker who thinks he can conquer the elements was foolhardy. But I was too young to know I was being foolhardy when I demanded that we shoot the film in the Atlantic Ocean and not in a North Hollywood tank." Finally, after many reshoots, it was finally done. Jaws was released in the United States on June 20th, 1975, and it was a massive success, earning $7 million in its opening weekend and would end up earning $476 million worldwide. And here is its plot synopsis according to IMDb, or Google. When a young woman is killed by a shark while skinny dipping near the New England tourist town of Amity Island, police chief Ron Brody wants to close the beaches, but Mayor Larry Vaughn overrules him, fearing that the loss of tourist revenue will cripple the town, as any capitalist would actually tell you. Matt Hooper and grizzled ship Captain Quint offer to help Brody to capture the killer beast, and the trio engage in an epic battle of man versus nature. Many of you do not know this, but I'm a massive Motorhead nut, so hopefully you get to hear more Motorhead as the reviews go by. So anyway, I may be the few to say this, but I think the movie is better than the actual book. There's barely anything wrong that I can pick out that would make me say, no, that doesn't work. Everything works in this film. One thing that I like that it improved from the book is that every character is relatable, and I love each of their individual personalities. Hell, the mayor, who I view as a fucking douche, is relatable, and the reason being is that he's human, and he makes mistakes like everyone else. Right from the opening shot, the movie got me hooked until the very end. Not one frame or scene is wasted. I love Spielberg's pacing with this movie and the way he shoots his scenes, even though it did cost him behind the scenes. And I'm very impressed with the shark prop itself. And one of the main reasons why is the music. Already, John Williams is a legend because of this film. I mean, come on, who doesn't know the first notes of Jaws? With that said, I love the score for this film. It has the right balance of joy, suspense, horror, and action. Overall, Jaws is another one of those films where it doesn't show his age even after 48 years. I would put it right next to Godzilla as one of the most legendary films in cinematic history, just what it accomplishes even in 1975. Not bad for a prop shark such as Bruce. And that will do for this review. Now, if you're thinking that I will just jump right into Godzilla's Return, well, no. There is one more movie, ironically in the same year, 1984, that we have to get to. How do you guys feel about science fiction action and time travel? Until then, thank you all for watching/listening. Like, comment, and subscribe, because if you do so, you get more eyes on the channel. This has been Demetrius signing off, and I'll be back.